Oi, oi. Is that better? Oi, oi. There we go. Is that better? Go away. Hello. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Layla. Hi, Layla. Hello, Omaha. The cat dancer. Fantastic. We can do Nightbot or Streamlabs if you may. If you want, I'll message you. Cool. It is still too criminally hot for your lass. I've basically been. I went out on Tuesday. Has everyone seen the pictures of the healing cruise? That is from Pollock Country Park here in Glasgow. It. I kept on reapplying my sunscreen, which is factor 50, because look at this face. I do not tan one bit. I burn and I peel and I burn again. And I am not risking myself in such a fashion. 89. God. Like when I checked the other night there, you were sitting at 96. So you've dropped a few degrees, thank God. But yeah, careful, it's going to be getting really hot for you next week. 106 Fahrenheit can go and do one. Just as well as slathering me in fucking cooking oil and making me go luminous red. I seriously don't know how you handle it. I really don't. I get Cappy. She's from Texas, more built for that weather, I guess, maybe. But yeah, this it would not handle living in Arizona. I really wouldn't. Shanna's American. Okay. Compared Fahrenheit and Celsius. 89. Oh, fuck. There was parts of England that were that fucking heat, and some of them. Give me a minute. 34. Ugh. Did I hear 36 from someone earlier this week? I think someone said it got up to 36 for them. Oh, fuck that. Fuck that. Good question, Layla. Celsius is more intelligent. I know scientists who use Kelvin, named after Professor Kelvin, who is from Scotland. But yeah, the Celsius, I got taught both, so the time period that I was at school, they taught us both of them. Like, both my sisters are younger than me, they only got taught Fahrenheit. But yeah, it's up to the school and the curriculum. So, it's centigrade. So I got taught both. I got taught both Fahrenheit and Celsius in school when I was a teenager. Because I'm old. I am 47. So I got taught both. I am the lucky generation because I can chop and change between the both of them. I used to be able to really do it in my head and like convert it roughly in the old brain. But I just use converters now. It's easier. But yeah, I'm more with Celsius than I am with Fahrenheit. And I have no idea why Americans chose Fahrenheit instead of Celsius. Ask the Department of Education, I guess. Yeah, this is spring apparently, and we're getting into the high 30s. Well, not up here in Scotland. We got to the mid-20s, roughly, so 24 or 25. So, like, on Tuesday when I went out, it was 24, which is 75 Fahrenheit. No, fuck. Yeah. Just know this is the perfect temperature. Or 15. 15? Yeah, I'd be fine with 15. Most of the time it's raining in May. Most of the time. But not at the tail end of this month. Right, hang on. December, January, February, winter. March, April, May, spring. June, July, August, summer. September, October, November, autumn. Roughly that's what it's meant to be like. Fucking isn't, because fucking 24 and late May is just wrong. Just wrong. There he is, the Joyce comrades, Jim Speak. Look, finally streaming again. I was just saying, far too hot, it can fuck off. I hope you didn't have it too bad down where you are, Mr. Speak. Anything above 30 is just wrong. Because, look at this. And I'll keep on saying, I will burn. Especially if there's no fucking cloud cover like we had on Tuesday and Wednesday. It is currently midnight here in Glasgow, and it is still 21 degrees. That's just wrong in so many fucking ways. Just, no. I've given up on. It says, maybe QT, I will see how I feel after reading a couple of news stories. There was a rather important vote in Holyrood on Tuesday that I'm definitely going to cover because independence, obviously. But look, here we go. This is the Good Law Project, everyone. If you can, donate to the Good Law Project so they can actually go up against these fucking transphobes and this stupid fucking Supreme Court ruling. It is wrong. Shall we? Oh, I've been going for 16 minutes. EHRC's new chair in Scotland linked to anti-abortion dark money groups. Fun. By Alice McCool. Human Rights Watchdog appoints barrister Alistair Henderson. Despite links to groups opposing women's and LGBTQI+ rights. Brilliant. The Equality and Human Rights Commission, EHRC, has appointed the barrister Alistair Henderson as interim chair of the Scotland Committee, despite links to groups opposing the rights of women and LGBTQ+. Henderson has served on the EHRC, which laid their revised guidance on how organisations should approach trans inclusion on Thursday, so that's a week ago. Go away, pop. Since 2018, he faced criticism in 2020 for liking and sharing posts criticising BLM. Delightful, so he's a fucking racist. As well as calling the words misogynist and homophobe highly ideological propaganda terms. I don't care what you fucking think. Oh yeah. Well, I had to do Kelvin when I done my degree. Highly ideological propaganda terms. No. They are describing words to say what the person is like. So misogynist, that's anti-woman, and obviously everyone knows what homophobe is. But spent 8 months as deputy chair in 2023. Between 2016 and 2021, Henderson was also director of the Lawyers Christian Fellowship, which is partnered with Alliance Defending Freedom. I don't like using this word, but it's actually quite apt for this association. They're Christo fascists, a US Christian right group that was central in overturning Roe v. Wade. So the Alliance Defending Freedom can go and do one. I don't want them involved in British or Scottish politics. I don't. But last week, the EHRC gave him a new position in Scotland just 2 weeks after he won a legal case funded by another dark money Christian right group from overseas, in which former journalist David Campanale says he won damages plus legal bill, which could be over £250,000. Campanale sued the Liberal Democrats in 2024, a US Christian wrong group. I like that. That's getting pinned. Pin message. Truth gets pinned. Oh, I'll type that actually. What is it? Fucking hell, it's not in my usual. Give me. Where the fuck is it? I'm looking, chat. Give me a second. Give me. Oh, that's words. Yeah, it's not there. Brilliant. Oh, there we go. Find it. Ah, fuck's sake. Can't type. Truth gets pinned. Campanale sued the Liberal Democrats in 2024, claiming that the party had discriminated for deselecting him as an electoral candidate because of his protected Christian beliefs. The Liberal Democrats argued that Campanale had not told them about his opposition to abortion and same-sex marriage on his previous membership of a Christian right political party, but admitted last month they had breached his human rights. If you don't hold true to what the party holds true, whatever their policy proposals, whatever their political positions are, they can deselect you if they want. The case was funded by Citizen Go, who are based in Spain, I believe, a global dark money pressure group with links to the far right, which campaigns against abortion and LGBTQ+ rights around the world. It is currently funding a legal challenge against the NHS puberty blocker trial led by detransitioner Keira Bell, and increasing its presence in the UK, Good Law Project found. Henderson took on Campanelli's case alongside his work at the EHRC, even though the watchdog had received complaints about Campanelli's deselection by groups such as Liberal Democrat Christian Forum. Oh! Mystery! Hello, Mystery. This isn't This isn't the first time the barrister has acted for people opposed to women's and LGBTQ plus rights. During his time at the Commission in 2018, he represented a group challenging the UK's first safe buffer zone around a clinic providing abortion care in Ealing. 2 years later, Henderson represented Bell in her original case against the Tavistock Clinic. Even though it was overturned, this marked the start of restrictions on gender-affirming care in the UK. And in 2022, he acted for a right-wing evangelical group against a Cambridge college which declined to host a training course because of concerns about the group's opposition to same-sex marriage. The EHRC told Good Law Project that Henderson is routinely instructed to represent a range of clients on the basis of cab rank principle, which requires barristers to take on any case within their competence. So if they, how do I describe this? If they can put aside their own beliefs, like put it in a box and represent their client zealously, saying you know the law surrounding these areas, then they usually pass. Is it? That's weird. It might be my voice. So, take a drink actually. Hello, Tingle Talk. Welcome. Oh, thank you, Mr. E. Oh, for full clarity, everyone, I was on antibiotics because I had a lung infection, I had bronchitis. So that's now cleared up and I'm sounding a lot better. Plus I don't really do well in the heat. Even if I'm sheltering inside my flat, I feel out of sorts and drained because it takes a lot for me to actually cope with this sort of heat. It sucks. Oh, that's better. So this heat dries out my throat, so you will be seeing me drink a lot of my, this is diluting lemon, by the way. Oh, so much better. Oh. Much better. Listen, the devoted is a huge exit tax enough to break it. Yeah. We really need to beef up the legislation around this so they can't actually put money into our political system. It sucks. And I want the government to be better. Like, I've got a decent government here in Scotland, the SNP. Better than most of the other parties. But at Westminster level, we have one of the worst governments known to man. It's fun. Labour, can you hear me? Fuck off. You're all going to lose your fucking seats anyway. And hopefully some of the Tories, they're mostly irrelevant now. But I'm scared of reform. When representing those clients, he acts in a personal capacity, the Commission said, not as a commissioner, and any such work does not represent the position of the EHRC. CJ! Rejoice comrades. Clamjammer 1980 in the chat. Hi CJ. Yeah. We were the ones that taught it to us. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know that. But then we started to diverge. Yeah, oddly enough, most of the things that you actually do now that we don't, we introduced it first. Oh yeah. Don't you worry about that, CJ. Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, I know that as well. I know that about association football. That's why it's called soccer over there. But we still call it football. Yeah, most of the shit you got from us. Elijah Yeager, a researcher at Trans Safety Network, said he was extremely concerned about Good Law Project's findings. So am I. It is completely inappropriate that he, as a commissioner, Yeager said, let alone be given more power. Oh, I love you too, CJ. Thanks. I am with the Trans Safety Network. I agree with them. Thank you, Elijah. The EHRC also said that their board are drawn from all walks of life and bring a breadth of skills and experience. Fair enough. So that organisation can take impartial decisions which are always based on evidence and the law. We have robust procedures in place to manage conflicts of interest and perceived conflicts of interest. The Commission said these require board members to recuse themselves from discussion where necessary. Does that happen though? Yeah. Emails leaked to Vice in 2022 showed Henderson suggested the EHRC intervene in the case of Maya Forstater. Fantastic, which she did. Forstater went on to co-found influential British anti-trans group Sex Matters. Ugh. Last year, Freedom of Information request uncovered the extent of the EHRC's relationship with anti-trans lobbyists, including Sex Matters. From offering fully private policy meetings to incorporating their suggestion into draft guidance verbatim. Oh, thank you, Mr. E. Stay hydrated. Self-care is good care, which I need to do more of. Stay based. Free Palestine. And don't trust AI. Or keep an eye on what's happening with trans rights here in the UK. Yeah. They're doing a fake. Yeah. There we go. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, sorry, parkour. I didn't see that stretch there. Give me a minute. Right, they're doing all that walking on Tuesday. My right calf muscle, so the one below the knee, is really fucking stiff and sore. Well, not too sore, but walking is fun. If you see me walking, if I need to go and do anything outside the living room, you'll see. Can I class that as walking? I don't think I can. Like putting weight on it is putting quite a lot of strain onto my lower legs. Not good. Oh. Give a minute. Where let's be Scotch news, let's not put it on. Tiny little sort of. Yeah. Molting. My hair keeps falling out. In fact, you know what? I'll bring it in. Do it that way. There we go. Much better. I might actually find a video for this on YouTube. Scottish Parliament endorses SNP call for independence referendum. I agree with that sign. End London Rule. Angus Cochrane. MSPs have endorsed the Scottish Government's call for Downing Street to agree to a second independence referendum. Looking from Chatterino at me or type if you need some. No problem, my dear. Thank you. Say thanks to Shanna, everyone. That is why she is called Supermod. She is super. She's amazing. Thank you, my dear. The proposition passed a vote at Holyrood with the backing of the SNP and Greens. The UK government would have to transfer powers to Holyrood for a second referendum to take place, but Labour ministers have repeatedly said they refuse to do so because they're bastards. Werewolf. That is the call to get Sharma. It is rather playful. Opposition parliamentarians, the unionists, used the debate to raise concerns about the criminality of former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrell, Nicola Sturgeon's ex-husband, who admitted embezzling more than $400,000 from the party following a police investigation into funds raised for a referendum campaign. There's the man. This is John Swinney, the First Minister. The motion agreed by Parliament said that this month's Holyrood election result provided a clear mandate that decisions about Scotland's future are best taken in Scotland, and that mandate must be respected. So, pro-indie parties, there's now 73 MSPs, so that's basically the SNP and the Scottish Greens. I am a party member. It called on the UK government to grant a Section 30, so that's the one we got for our last independence referendum in 2014. Cameron gave us it. So even the Tories gave us a fucking independence vote, and this Labour government, supposedly centre-left, citation needed very much, refused to give us this. Labour, you suck. Get wrecked. Which would give SNP ministers the power to hold a referendum. You'd be more than welcome to Omaha. It would get better. It is marginally better up here, obviously. More bang for your buck, for your taxes up here. Like, all of the unionist parties, I'm not entirely sure. No, Labour done it as well. They want, so there's 3 extra tax bands up here. There's a 45% tax rate, that's UK wide, that is the highest one that they have at the Treasury. But the one up here is you pay 48% above £125,140 a year. So we've got a higher tax rate band here. I approve. First Minister John Swinney is expected to raise the issue during upcoming talks with Keir Starmer. I would love to be a fly on the wall to see how that fucking goes. motion also highlighted government commitments to eradicate child poverty, improve the NHS and public services, grow the economy, bring down the cost of living and hit its climate targets. It was opposed by Labour, Reform, Conservative and the Liberal Democrats. Lovely. That's delightful. Sonny told Parliament that independence could take Scotland from political chaos and economic stagnation within the UK to greater security and prosperity as a member of the EU. Now, this is where I differ from the SNP and the Scotch Greens. I wouldn't go back in, and I definitely wouldn't join the Euro. That is my opinion, not the party's. That is Katie's one. So when he told, he urged MSPs to vote to put Scotland's future in Scotland's hands. I approve this message. And deliver a fresh start for the country. So look. He's looking rough, isn't he? But he's always been a demon, so it's actually reflecting now in his face what he looks like, what he actually is. And someone from the Tony Blair Institute is on tonight's panel down in QT panel down in Dulwich. By the way, that was her seat. I am glad she is dead. She used Scotland as a guinea pig for some of the worst fucking policies ever wrought in this country. While he welcomed some of the measures in the SNP motion, Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar, he's the official opposition by the way, said the First Minister had an obsession with independence. That's why the SNP exists, Anna. Just because you got the second highest percentage of the vote and you became the official opposition now. Even though it hit them and before we've got the same number of MSPs, Labour's the official opposition. Fun! He dismissed talk of a fresh start after almost 20 years of SNP rule. Do better policies? Not that Scottish Labour's going to fucking do that. Referencing Murrell's guilty plea, Sarwar said SNP members had been robbed of their hard-earned cash. Right, if he did embezzle it from the party will get that back through this court case. Because he stole it. He embezzled it from the SNP. So the 400,000 should go back into party coffers. Conservative leader Russell Finlay accused the government of ignoring important issues such as the NHS, education, high taxes, a rising social security bill benefits, and the decline of North Sea oil and gas industry. I don't want you to, you don't need, just leave Jackdaw, natural gas, and Rosebank oil. Just leave them the fuck alone. Our energy security is in renewables, Russell. How many times did I fucking yell that at you? Do fucking tidal. By the way, your lass is an eco-socialist as well. He called on the SNP to drop the damaging independence obsession. Stop banging on about fucking oil and gas then, Russell. We are fed up and we don't have that devolved up here, parts of that, so Westminster, can you hear me? Devolve energy policy up to Holyrood so we can create a Scottish grid and stop getting charged to put the energy that we generate renewably onto the national grid and de-link it from the price of fossil fuels as well while you're at it. That's why I keep on saying devolve the fucking powers. Will they do that? Will they bollocks? Delightful bastards. Findlay said that following Murrell's guilty plea, it was laughable that the First Minister reckons the SNP can be trusted to take full control of an independent Scotland and our nation's finances. They'll do it damn sight better than fucking Westminster are doing. Just saying. 14 years of your party in power. Austerity is ideology, not fucking fixing the roof while the sun is shining. Yes, I remember that catchphrase, Gideon, you monster. And 5p back tax. They try to end people like me. 330,000 excess deaths, anyone. So you can shut the fuck up, Russell. Oh yeah, they were marvellous, weren't they, Fuzz? Rejoice, comrades. Fuzzmas in chat. Good evening, Fuzzmas. So this is about the vote from Tuesday. He accused Swinney of dismissing valid concerns about the SNP's finances when they were raised in 2021. Yours and the Reform's finances that you were campaigning on during the election were ridiculed. Like, Reform's was literally laughed at, and yours weren't any better. Just the standard Tory fucking finance policies. We went through 14 years of that. We're not regressing. We're not going back the way, Russell, so shut it. He accused Swinney of dismissing valid concerns about the SNP's finances when they were raised in 2021, and went on to claim the former First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, also told those with concerns to stay quiet. Earlier, Swinney said he was not conscious of having shut down concerns about party finances. Alex Kerr, the party's national secretary, also said there had been a huge overhaul of financial oversight and said he was absolutely confident in it at the moment. Desperate mental gymnastics. Lib Dem leader Alex Cole-Hamilton said a request for a Section 30 order was performative since Swinney had manifestly failed in the test he had set for himself to secure an SNP majority. How many did Yeah, it's the usual malcontents. Delightful. They're like a broken fucking record. Reform UK Scotland leader Malcolm Offord, who used to be a Tory by the way, described it as Groundhog Day in the Scottish Parliament while not ruling out another referendum at some point in the future. He said MSPs should not discuss a referendum for another 10 years. Fuck off. Rejoice, comrades. Sozzled snake. Good evening, Sozzled. This is about the vote on Tuesday in Holyrood. Welcome in, friend. Welcome in. Shut up, Malcolm. I really don't care what you think. I don't. Scottish Green co-leader and absolute legend Ross Greer said independence could help deliver affordable energy and progress in tackling poverty. Holy fucking Christ, that gave me a flig. Thank you, Sozzled. Rejoice, Fuzzmas, you have been saved from ad hell. Speaking of which, actually. Ads in 17 minutes, so I bet you. But he also said the government could make better progress on the NHS and climate actions with the powers it already has. He is correct. The MSP accused unionist parties of resorting to desperate mental gymnastics to deny a mandate for a referendum. He called for more respect for Scottish democracy and Scottish voters. Based. Thank you, Ross. The debate on independence was the first policy debate of the new parliamentary session following the SNP's election victory. Sweeney had told voters during the campaign that an SNP majority was the best way to break the constitutional logjam caused by the UK government refusing to grant a referendum at Section 30 order. After his party fell 7 seats short of that threshold, the First Minister highlighted that a record total of 73 pro-independence SNP and Scottish Green MSPs had been returned to Parliament, including my friend Iris Dwayne in Kew Manavannan. And everyone seems to be losing their shit over Dr. Manavannan. Leave Dr. Manavannan alone, you transphobic pieces of shit. Critics have accused him of shifting the goalposts on his constitutional aims. Like none of yous do that either. Although they returned more MSPs than ever, the combined vote share of the pro-independence, SNP and Greens fell from about 48% in 2021 to about 40% this year. There's more Scottish Greens in the Parliament now, there's 15. I'm sure reform would be up for a referendum, they always jump to conclusion. Ooh. So the Green. Yeah, it's the lowest vote share of a general election ever. Yeah. But they've got a majority. Yeah, but it's wide but shallow. Have you seen some of the majorities the Labour backbenchers have? They're fucked. I don't see anyone in the cabinet surviving, and that includes fucking Angela Rayner. Wes has a majority of 528, and he's despised within the party, let alone the rest of the fucking country. So a majority of 528, that is not a majority. And one of the ones who resigned, Jess Phillips, 693, that is tiny. Support for the SNP has declined since Nicola Sturgeon's time in charge of the party, but backing for independence has consistently hovered about 50% in recent years. Yeah. We can check the front bench to just check their obviously she resigned now. But I think hers was one of the lowest on the front bench in cabinet was Jess. 693. We will check the other front benchers in a minute. Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland all now have First Ministers in favour of breaking up the UK. Oh no, this was a while ago. Jess Phillips. Safeguarding Minister. She was one of the ones that stood down, and then Wes left the government, so his was one of the smallest, I believe, so 528. That is correct. So SNP up here, Plaid Cymru in Wales, and Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland. That has prompted questions for the UK government about its constitutional policy, with SNP politicians urging Downing Street to clarify Scotland's democratic route to independence. They won't. I'm sure even Stammer's majority was it was. On independence, the Prime Minister previously said he did not envisage another referendum during his time in office. With any fucking luck, he will not be in office by the end of this year. A Downing Street spokesperson said that the UK government did not support Scottish independence or a referendum. Ain't that the truth? They added, people need and want their governments focused on the issues that really matter: economic growth, the cost of living, and public services. Our focus must be on delivery, not division. A union of equals, apparently. No. Oh, Peter Murrell. Murrell, Nicola Sturgeon's estranged husband, potentially faces a lengthy jail sentence after he pled guilty to embezzling £400,310.65 from the SNP between 2010 and 2022. Yeah, it's fucking laughable, isn't it, Fuzzmas? Completely fucking laughable. The 61-year-old used party funds to make hundreds of illicit purchases, ranging from staples and chopsticks to a luxury motorhome and 2 cars. He is due to be sentenced next month. Sturgeon was arrested as part of the police investigation into SNP finances, but was later told she would face no further action. Swinney was in his first spell as SNP leader when Murrell was appointed chief executive in 2001. Earlier, Starmer said Swinney had questions to answer about Murrell's crime. Yeah. Correct, Omaha. He said, well, I think anybody looking at what's happening up in Scotland will be baffled that those at the top of the SNP say they didn't know anything about what was going on. Murrell was hiding it from his then wife and the rest of the party executive. If he wasn't telling people what he was doing, you can't blame them for not knowing if he didn't say anything or if people didn't do just what was going on. They were kind of busy actually running a country. Speaking to reporters at Holyrood, Swinney replied, I don't really think I'll be listening much to what Keir Starmer says to me about anything. The First Minister also sidestepped criticism from former SNP MP and National Executive Committee member Joanna Cherry. Yes. Oh, I didn't need to read that. There we go. Rejoice comrades, Tom Isaacs in the chat. He does have some sass in him. By that logic, Joni Reid should have known her husband was lifted on suspicion of spying. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Da, 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 da. Good.
Make up the price differential. So if you've got some...
Well, look, the reality is the SNP's plan was a gimmick.
Explain to us how it works, Stephen. So who would make up the price differential? So if you've got something that is costing, let's say, I don't know, £1 at the moment, and you want to reduce that, who is going to make up that shortfall? Is it the farmers? Is it the supply chain? Is it the supermarkets? Who's going to make up that shortfall?
Well, I'm pretty familiar, and I'm sure everyone in the audience is pretty familiar with some of the enormous bonuses that have been awarded to people who sit at the top of these retail giants. I think there's certainly space within those companies, given the sheer size and scale of them, to absorb a little bit of pain in order for the greater good to be met.
Even if they cut their bonuses to zero, it wouldn't cover the cost. So seriously, who's going to cover the cost?
So the challenge that we are setting them, rightly, is to do their bit to look after our fellow citizens, and I think that that's the right thing to do.
And how will you make sure it doesn't impact farmers, say, for example? Explain to us how it works, Stephen. So who would make up the...
Well, look, the reality is the SNP's plan was a gimmick. This was used during the election campaign to try and grab some headlines because the SNP needed something to try and do. That's exactly what this policy is. We've seen this in history and it's never really worked. All that ends up happening is people end up going to buy food in bulk. We've seen farmers that get it.
Thank you for dropping by. Stay hydrated. Self-care is good care. Take your meds if you need to take any. Stay based. Free Palestine, and keep an eye on reform bastards.
In trouble, we've seen small retailers that then struggle as well. This isn't just going to hit big supermarkets. And the reality is, this is a stushy that the SNP are looking to fight with Westminster. That's what they're trying to do here. That's what Stephen's trying to do. The legislation he brings forward is not competent within the devolution settlement. It's going to have a fight in terms of the Internal Market Act. So there's going to be a fight with Westminster. That's what the SNP want, because they consistently live off grievance machines and grievance fights with Westminster. I don't want to see that. What I want to see, because what Stephen said about the cost of living is absolutely right. It was the number one issue when we were travelling about the country campaigning over the past few months, was people were saying that they couldn't make ends meet. So here's an idea. Let's cut taxes. Let's put money back in your pockets. Let's end the gimmicks. Well, look, the reality is the SNP's plan was a gimmick. This was used during the election campaign to try and grab some headlines because the SNP needed something to try and do. That's exactly what this policy is. We've seen this in history and it's never really worked. All that ends up happening is people end up going to buy food in bulk. We've seen farmers that get into trouble. We've seen small retailers that then struggle as well. This isn't just going to hit big supermarkets. And the reality... Westminster, that's what they're trying to do here. That's what Stephen's trying to do. The legislation he brings...
I don't think it is the right thing for the country to have another change of leadership, especially when the inevitable result of that...
Oh, no. What else did I say I was doing? The previous one, this is Danny Kruger, so he was a Tory, he is now Reform. Was that 2 weeks ago? I can't remember. But yeah, Thomas Kerr was a Tory. He was a councillor for Reform for the Shelton ward, which is to the east of me, in that direction. So that way. But he's an MSP now. He's in Holyrood, sitting right next to fucking Malcolm. So last week's QT was in Dumfries, which is in the south of the country, south of Scotland, in Dumfriesshire, oddly enough. Right. Yeah. I don't like Danny Kruger. No. Oh, do. Okay, Cassandra. This story from last year, Tony Blair to help Scottish Labour beat SNP, helps explain these statistics. Labour MSPs since devolution, so since we got Holyrood. In 99, 56 MSPs. 2003, 50. 2007, 46. 2011, 37. 2016, 24 MSPs. 5 years ago, 22 MSPs, and earlier this month, 17. And still they don't learn. Former Prime Minister's Institute for Global Change to help develop health policies for party ahead of key Holyrood election. Hasn't really worked out well for you, Tony, has it? Why is it that the only thing they want to do is beat the SNP? No policies to help Scotland, no understanding of its people, no respect for us as a country, a desire to ruin our infrastructure, our jobs, our workplaces, our NHS. But sure, let's beat the SNP. Because they long ago realised that they cannot win hearts and minds. They cannot sell Greater England, so they must simply control. It will, of course, all end in tears. But they can only delay the inevitable. They can't prevent it except with military force. Try it, which I'm sure they are considering. They can consider it all they fucking like. What do you think is going to happen if they try and force us? I hope not. Yes, busy gran of 6. I hope not either. Lazy, entitled approach to politics. Telegraph headline could have included try to, but reflect reality. But no, it reads as if the disgraced ex-PM would simply lead Labour into power at Holyrood. Why anyone would listen to Blair defies belief. Still, Stammer and Blair have illegal wars in common. Oh! Rejoice, comrades. Scribby has been subscribed for 17 months. Scribby, you legend. Thank you very much for the sub. So no policy to bring people into their cause, just SNP bad. Correct, Camsies. Given what has happened in Wales, I fully expect them to repeat that Plaid Cymru bad. No, yeah. It's all just a desire to control and dominate as what has happened in England, not that resurrecting Blair will change their fortunes. More help, Tony, Ditto Gordon, Ditto Baron McConnell of Glen Scoresdale. That's Jack McConnell, by the way, former First Minister. The party that didn't notice how Scotland wanted to go, as it descended from community and socialism to capitalism, self-importance and greed. Plastic Scouser, I like that name. I bet the SNP are quaking in their boots, suspecting the feeling in Scotland towards Blair is. Very much. I think the were trying to tie the role of the PM to that president so that you can draft Dodge and Donny if I'm getting. Well said, Omaha. The only thing this detestable man will hasten is the breakup of the UK. If alleged war criminal Blair is the best the union can do, then they are finished. Giant aquatic centipede? This guy's the political equivalent of Typhoid Mary. Oh, it's someone interested in my degree in virology. That is delightful. I love that. It's so funny. I wonder how much he charged them for his help. Well said, Ian. I'd be curious to find out. Lynn tax the rich and welfare not warfare. The only people Blair helps are himself and his family. Correct. They keep on forgetting that. We don't have a presidential system. We have a constitutional monarchy, and there's constituencies where everyone gets voted in. It is convention rather than written down. That the leader of the largest party who gets the largest number of seats in the first past the post for Westminster elections, that's who becomes Prime Minister. He is there at the behest of the monarch, or they are there at the behest of the monarch. So now I have the confidence of the House to be the government. He doesn't have the confidence of the House, let alone the fucking country. Let them carry on not learning. Bodes well for the SNP vote given those figures. Correct, Chickyholic. Correct. Blair, the gift that keeps on giving to the SNP. Our gourd ooze. Robin de Boer, Tony Blair, the kiss of death. Dave Hargreaves, I fucking love it. Yeah, so we all vote in our MP. Mine's is Labour. Maureen, you're fucked. She was one of the ones that was backing him to stay PM, by the way. I thought she was on the list to say, go away, just step down now. No, she wasn't one of the ones that wanted the Prime Minister to step down. She backed him. I wonder if she's on that Mandelson list. Don't panic, Jonesy. Numbers were dropping when that oily creep was PM. Once again, our brothers north of the border are showing more good sense than we are. How do you do it, Scotland? Do you have a call programme in place for half-wits or something? No, we just listen to the bastards. Ergo Sum. Good handle. Man, he's just handing W's over to the SNP. Yes, potentially schizophrenic. That is correct. Blair is just something America flushed down the toilet. Oh, I'm loving these. They're fucking amazing. Why has he been giving so much airtime now? He is a dangerous man. Correct, Somerville. Yes. Yes. I keep on saying I will go to B&Q and buy a shovel and dig the trench myself if that gets into number 10. He looks like a loon. Can someone put him in a home? It's very fucking belongs. Always remembering we continue to pay his new Labour arranged PFI humongous and arranged long-lasting debts, etc., etc., etc. Werewolf. Rejoice, comrades. Natok in the chat. Good evening, Natok. Welcome in. You know what would give us a big comeback if we started hanging around again with this creep that everyone hates? Imagine how badly Scottish Labour would have done without Tony Blair's vital contribution. Good point. The poor Scots spot will stop him meddling in Westminster corporate handbagger. You've got to be in really serious trouble if you're looking for help from Tony Blair. Our lass is doing well. It is still far too fucking horrible. I am not telling anyone what that means. I am not. For much of the last 20 years, and certainly for the entire period of the Scottish Parliament, a significant segment of the public waited to hear a Labour message in politics that would have resonance and relevance to them. They wanted it and hoped for it. And for many, only slowly and reluctantly turned away as it failed to appear and the SNP offered a more confident, coherent and progressive account of Scotland. Just saying. Oh, thank you, Aldous Gray, that's cool. There we go. Always remember that the NHS debt service thing was crippling me, and that Wes was doing. Yeah, correct. Some of these were actually signed when the fucking demon was Prime Minister. And we are locked at, so these PFI contracts, we're locked into them for a good few more years. Basically, public money getting siphoned off and going to private interests. Delightful, isn't it, chat? Just make it end, please. Fuck. What have I got in my watch later? Find that one. Oh, we won't get that either. That's a reserve. Immigration's a reserved matter. We're an ageing population up here. We need the immigration to actually put people into the public and private sectors. But reserved. Thanks, Westminster. You fucking suck. Do you want to watch that one? I've actually watched it, but it would be quite good. Oh, it's political teacher. there's one that Owen done. Give me a minute. Owen Jones. Hollow, the oldest twink. Oh, this is 10 days old, but this is... No, you won't give us hope. Ah, bollocks.
Course of our country. No drama. It could be a turning point, a sliding doors moment. I'm talking, of course, about Andy Burnham, Mayor of Greater Manchester for now. This by-election may well determine the future course of our country. No drama. It could be a turning point, a sliding doors moment. I'm talking, of course, about Andy Burnham, Mayor of Greater Manchester for now, standing in Makerfield in Greater Manchester with the intention of then overthrowing Keir Starmer and becoming leader of the Labour Party and Prime Minister of this country. Now, I don't want to do one of two things. One, blindly get sucked up in Burnham mania, so to speak, or two, do a hatchet job. What I'm going to do here is try to be fair, to be accurate, and to ask the right questions. Now, a major reason that a lot of people have scepticism and concerns is that Keir Starmer, quite notoriously stood to be leader of the Labour Party in 2020, standing on a platform of radical pledges like public ownership, hiking taxes on the well-off, abolishing student tuition fees, putting human rights at the heart of foreign policy. We could go on. He even set these out as 10 pledges with his signature and everything. And as we know, this was all a con, simply a ruse to deceive Labour members into voting for him so he could crush the left and literally drag Labour in the exact opposite direction. Dishonesty is deeply corrosive to democracy, and that has left many feeling...
Yes, please remember, everyone, Andy Burnham is a fucking playwright bastard. He actually done lots of PFIs when he was in Cabinet. Andy, you suck.
Pretty cynical about Labour politicians who come along and offer progressive things. Now, Andy Burnham is not just Labour's most popular politician. He is the most popular politician in the country. According to Ipsos, he's on +8 compared to -18 for Wes Streeting and -28 for Keir Starmer. If voters had to choose between Labour governments or Reform governments, Burnham has a lead of +16 over Farage compared to +11 for Starmer and +7 for Streeting. Among adults in Northern England, where he's standing, he has a rating of +26 compared to -22 for Nigel Farage. Burnham's got a charismatic northern charm about him. He's a likeable guy. You can imagine having a pint with him, that kind of thing. He's obviously Labour's best bet in terms of defeating Reform and the Greens, though, of course, that has a lot to do with how chronically unpopular his colleagues are. Within the limited confines that the power he has as Greater Manchester allows him, he's done good progressive things, notably on transport. Buses were deregulated under Thatcherism 4 decades ago, meaning soaring ticket prices and collapsing bus routes. What Burnham did is create an integrated transport network called the B Network, trying to emulate the transport system in London under public control. Fares have gone down, bus journeys and the total distance covered by buses have gone up substantially. Their punctuality's gone up, public satisfaction has gone up. That doesn't mean buses have been brought under public ownership, though there has been the introduction
He does indeed.
Buses. About 1 in 7 publicly run or in the process of being publicly run. We'll come on to public ownership on the national scale. I am concerned about Burnham's relationship with property developers. From a political perspective, I should emphasise, not anything improper or anything like that, but what that could mean for Burnham Onyx, if we're going to coin that, on a national scale. That particularly applies to his relationship with the property developer Renacre, owned by Darren Whittaker. Most of the money from the Greater Manchester Housing Investment Loans Fund, controlled by the Mayor, has gone to Renacre. And as the Manchester Mill, a brilliant local media outlet, explained, they've mostly built projects in Manchester, the city, rather than other boroughs like Wigan, like Bolton, Bury, which have got very little, or indeed Stockport, where I'm from. It hasn't built this Rennica built any affordable housing in its developments. Most of the 6,110 new homes it built are luxury rental properties out of reach of a greater Mancunian on the average salary. Overall, the fund has directly supported just 503 affordable units. That is not built by them, of course. The fund, that's the minority that's gone elsewhere. Now, Burnham has separately called for right to buy to be suspended on new council home properties, correct? Right policy. That's the Thatcherite policy introduced, which flogs off council housing, which has led to 4 in 10 former council homes being rented out by private landlords charging twice the rent. After the 20...
Thanks, Maggie. There is no right to buy up here, by the way. The SNP got rid of it. And there is no Section 21, which is a no-fault eviction either. Doesn't exist. And we're tackling Airbnb uses as well. We're changing the legislation around that. Round of applause for Based Scotland. It is awesome up here, to a certain extent. So yeah, don't get me wrong, we still need to build more council houses. Give the money to the council so they can build council housing. Like the missive I signed for this flat was with Glasgow City Council. I literally was a council tenant. I have one of the lowest rents here in the city. We are still under 200 a month for our rent. I am not allowed to say to my niblet because they start swearing at me. Like they're in a studio flat, essentially, up in Perth. And they ask me so often, are you still under 200 a month, Auntie Katie? And I say, yes, my dear. Not fair, I want a council house. So her mum, my younger sister, she's a council tenant up there. I quite like her house. Good house. And my mum outright owns her house as well.
2024 election, he promised to build at least 10,000 council homes over his mayoralty. Now, in the year 2024 to 2025, and I looked this up, the Greater Manchester region had only started construction on 10 council homes. 10. All 10 of them in Wigan. Not good.
Yeah, mother. I'll get that in a second. Do. Oh, hydrate. Thank you, Jim. Yes, make it a council, make it a government cabinet position. And we need to be building more than 1.5 million over the space of the Parliament, which is 5 years. We need to be building more of that. Angela was in charge of that. It no longer is. It's Steve Reid, who I do not trust with a fucking 10-foot barge pole. Steve Reid, get wrecked. Yeah, get rid of right to buy. And put people in training for various trades: plumbing, painting, decorating, bricklaying, glazer, electricians. People like that. Can you hear me, Westminster?
That needs an explanation. Unfortunately, again, this is a problem with our media. That's the sort of questions. I'm going to ask him. I'm going to try and approach him for an interview. I have interviewed him before. I mean, what I would say there is obviously
Correct, John.
A lot of you watching on different platforms.
Rejoice, comrades. John the Brazen in the chat. Good evening, John. Hope you're doing well, my comrade.
Often people who've gone from Labour to Greens who he wants to try and win back. So I think it's probably a good idea. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm just, some guy you could argue. But, I do have an audience. Many of you, hi, who are the sorts of people he actually would like to try and win over. So, these are questions that need to be answered. Now, Burnham has gone on a journey. He was a Blairite in 2010. He's a former special advisor, but he was a Blairite. He supported the Iraq War. I mean, he renounced that, but, that's what, and that was, I know, he was younger and all the rest of it, but, he's an adult. He became kind of soft left under Ed Miliband when he was Shadow Health Secretary. But then in the 2015 leadership election, after Labour lost badly in 2015 under Ed Miliband, he then, again, launched himself, kind of veered off to the right. He launched his leadership bid in an accountancy firm, HQ. He appointed a really politically unpleasant right-winger called Michael Duggar as his campaign manager. Duggar ended up as the chair of the Betting and Gaming Council. That's the main gambling industry lobby group. Now, what happened then, under Jeremy Corbyn, it was quite interesting.
Haven't died from
resign
stroke yet.
From the front bench when other front benches did during the...
What was the temperature down there? Like, we got up to 24 on Tuesday and Wednesday. I am not built for that heat. How's this doing? A bit more. Now, if my laptop cooler fan gets on anyone's nerves, I'll see if I can rebalance it a bit.
The 2016 coup. Now, part of that, many would argue, is because he wanted to end up being Mayor of Greater Manchester and he didn't want to alienate Labour members in order to make sure that obviously he was the candidate. But, he does seem to have gone on a journey again as Greater Manchester Mayor. People who know him in a way I don't say that's sincere. What kind of journey that is, personally, I would need reassurances. But I think you need reassurances. I think we need some explanation, but also we'll come on to the kind of pressure, political pressure that exists if you're Prime Minister. And if you're somebody who's gone on a journey, there's nothing wrong going, if you're going on a genuine journey, good. But if it's a case of you're not actually that clear about your own convictions, then you can shift in different directions under pressure. And if the balance of power is weighted in favour, obviously, of the right and big business and all the rest of it, you can see the problem. Now, just as an example of what reassurances are obviously needed, Burnham was a member of Labour Friends of Israel, the pro-Israel lobbying organisation in practice. In the 2015 leadership contest, he opposed any boycotts of Israel and said his first foreign trip would be to Israel. Even more disturbingly, he said he was perplexed at the unjustified spitefulness being applied against Israel on the basis it stood up for gay rights, trade union rights and civil liberties. Goodness me. Now, I know this is 2015. Look, this is why we need reassurances, more than reassurances. As a gay man, I find pink washing abhorrent. That is, using LGBTQ rights as, some sort of rationale or to paint over, the occupation, the apartheid, and indeed now the genocide, which Israel is imposing on the Palestinian people. Saying about, standing up for civil liberties, goodness me. What civil liberties from 3 million Palestinians in the West Bank, just for a start, who live under military occupation where kids are put through military courts, the only country on earth which routinely puts kids through military courts. Which either detains people there with no charge or puts through kangaroo courts.
John, I feel for you.
Which mows children down for throwing stones. I'm just talking about the West Bank. I'm not talking about the extermination of Gaza. Now, I know that was before the extermination of Gaza, but that was when Gaza was under a criminal siege, which had devastating consequences for the people of Gaza. Obviously, Israel had subjected the Palestinians to murderous oppression for decades. Of course, there was the Nakba, which just had the anniversary, where they drove out, 750,000 Palestinians violently, killing 15,000 in the process, destroying and erasing entire villages to steal land to settle on. And, of course, there's the colonization of the West Bank. But in what is pre-1967 Israel, all these, Israel built on the ruins of destroyed Palestinian villages and settlements. this isn't some sort of side issue. And what he said there back in 2015 was just outrageous. An outrageous thing to say, given the oppression that Palestinians are subjected to. And he was talking about gay rights. He should speak to queer Palestinian activists like I do. They don't say, "Oh yeah, we love Israel because it's gay rights." No, they talk about the criminal occupation that people are subjected to, and they find it abhorrent actually when they're used in order to justify the oppression of their people. Now that said, in October 2023, long before, damningly, the Labour leadership, he signed a letter supporting a ceasefire in Gaza and condemning the blockade of essential goods and services imposed by Israel. So he was ahead of the curve there in terms of the Labour leadership. In June 2025, he signed a letter demanding the recognition of Palestine, a few months before the government did, not that much before. Demanding the
Britain must take the lead and recognise Palestine now. So Ellen Ed Morgan, who was a Labour leader in the Senate, in Wales, Andy Burnham, Emily Thornberry, and Anthony Slaughter, punk rock grandad. He's the head of the Greens. He's in the Senate now. Praise be Andy Slaughter. I thought it was Anthony Slaughter. See, Labour should not equivocate on a two-state solution. We're well past two-state solution. That would ensure a peaceful future for Palestinians and Israelis alike.
Recognition of Palestine, a few months before the government did, not that much before, but condemning the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza was unlawful according to the International Court of Justice ruling, and saying that Israel is destroying viable life for Palestinians in Gaza. Now, it doesn't say genocidal. It needs to be absolutely clear, does he think it's genocidal? I mean, destroying viable life for Palestinians, it's not mealy math, they are destroying viable life, but does he mean genocidal? Now, will he impose sweeping sanctions on Israel? Will he end all arms sales? Will he accept Israel has committed war crimes and genocide with all the legal implications that arise from that? Because many of the people who've left Labour for the Greens and independent candidates care about this a lot. It's not you can't just go, oh, it's foreign policy. Who care? People do care about it. They do care about it. And a lot of people have left Labour as members, but as voters over this as well. So it's not an issue he should be able to sidestep. I mean, this is part of the problem. Part of the reason he is much more popular is because he's maintained low visibility in terms of the big
national multi-ethnic country,
immigration, for example,
and the rights of everyone recognised.
Now let's just hear what he said in this clip.
We need a different path completely.
What is that path?
Put more things back under stronger public control: energy, housing, water, transport. I've done that with the buses in Greater Manchester, so I was the first to do it. Margaret Thatcher deregulated them. No, but I'm just giving you an example. Yeah, sure. She deregulated them. I put them, and then they just work for the private shareholders and not for the paying public. I put them back under public control. We've got £2 fares. So you take that principle and you apply it to energy and you apply it to water. That's what I think we need to do. The country gave away its control of the basic things that people depend upon.
Gave away? No, she sold off to her mates. Publicly owned water up here, by the way. I want publicly owned energy. Like more renewables, more on and offshore. Tidal, please. If America wants in Israel, then it can be in America. 2 birds, 1 stone. Omaha, that is based. Round of applause for Omaha, the cat dancer, for saying that. Yeah.
Every day. And that was a big mistake in my view.
You see, what worries me is what he said at the start. He said, put more things back under public, then corrects himself. You see, he says, so he stops and corrects himself. He says, stronger public control. That worries me because it sounds like giving yourself leeway to basically not be clear about what you actually mean. And it reminds me of Starmer, who, after the leadership contest where he did commit to nationalisation, then said, no, I didn't mean nationalisation. I never said nationalisation. Well, I mean, he did, actually, but he did. 10 pledges, he claimed he didn't use that word, and therefore, and it was just a way of deceiving people. We're not going through that again.
The Morgan McSchemy strap. Just lie. It's not like Keir Starmer is a morally corrupt serial liar. Obviously, he.
He needs to be asked, what does he mean? I mean, again, it just shows journalists not doing their job. You know, what does he mean by more public control? Why has no one asked him? What does that mean in practical terms? What does he mean? What does he mean? Does he mean? I mean, one example, because you can make arguments which I think are very credible, that you can't just say nationalise all the energy retailers and multinational companies. But there's a way around that, because you can set up a publicly run national energy retailer, which then displaces those other retailers. It just, you know, you basically has more competitive rates and all the rest of it, and then you just basically put them out of business. But, you know, what's he going to do about water? We don't want, because he can't end up by going, oh, I just meant stronger regulation. That's meaningless, not interested. No one's interested in that. We want our utilities back under the control of the people of this country. And that means democratic control, not the old top-down model of bureaucrats, but where workers and service users are on boards running our industries. Expand democracy. But anyway, again, he hasn't been asked. Let's hear this as well.
Labour needs to be better, to change, and be once again the party that people in this borough knew that they'd voted for many years. You know, I don't blame anybody who in recent times has gone away and, you know, voted for other parties. I want to regain their trust. I want Labour solidly to be the party of working class people and working class communities, and that requires a lot of change. And the thing I am going to come back to is, I think Britain has been on the wrong path for 40 years. It started in this borough with deindustrialisation, deregulation of the buses, privatisation of life's essentials, and it's left us today in a position where many people in this borough cannot make things add up. We need to massively make life more affordable for them. So I am saying we need a new path. We need to fix politics, to fix the economy, get the basics back under public control, so that
public ownership. Put it back in public hands. Burnham, can you hear me? On next week's QTs in Makerfield, dear God, it is going to be really bad, I think. It will be good to hear the reform dude, who they actually put. He was running to get the seat in the general election 2 years ago.
people can afford their rent, their energy bills, etc.
Now, obviously, it's welcome. He says Labour has to be a party of the working class and working class communities. That's why it was founded. He says Britain's been on the wrong path for 40 years. So he's talking about Thatcherism and driving back Thatcherism. And he notably folds New Labour into that. But again, what does public control mean? It has to be democratic public ownership. He needs to flesh that out. Then there's this on electoral reform.
Are we talking about electoral reform here?
I support it, and I think it brings
so ditching first past the post for a new system.
Conversation.
Okay.
I will show Kev's video next because it's really quite good. Watching our rummy comrade lose his mind
it to be in a manifesto and endorsed at a general election. So I'm not saying that things should be done for which there is not currently consent.
Okay, so we need clarity on what form of electoral reform Andy Burnham is proposing. Greater Manchester doesn't have a proportional system. It has a supplementary vote system, which is majoritarian. It's a preferential system for single mayor. Now, I didn't actually get from that he's saying he means this system should be the national system. The only system that should be acceptable, though, is proportional representation. Is that what he means? Is he going to commit to it? How do we get to it? Now, it's clear from what he said elsewhere. What he said was it would be in a... well, he said actually that, so it'd be in a general election. It would be in the manifesto. Now, some have got angry about that and gone, well, no deal then. To be honest, I don't think a referendum is actually the way to do this. I think we've had our fun with referendums as a country. I think having a referendum on a binary question on a single issue, where you have basically, you know, this big bad faith campaign on the one side, weaponizing discontent against the government and mixing that in to an issue which should be separate, I don't think is a good idea. I think actually a general election in a manifesto commitment to do it, not to do a referendum, but to just legislate that if there's a majority in Parliament of, you know, a hung Parliament, potentially, for example, Labour MPs, SNP, Green, Lib Dem, that they then vote to change the electoral system. I don't have the problem with that I think some people do. I think that's probably the better way to do it. But is that what he wants? Again, he's not been asked. Journalists should do their job. I think the other point is, it's just that point about the journeys.
Journalists won't do their job.
He's going to be, you know, if he becomes leader of the Labour Party, the parliamentary Labour Party is full of these right-wing ghouls.
And commentators here like to laugh.
Labour Party,
we keep on shouting, and we're never heard.
You've got reform, you've got the media, you've got big business, you've got the markets. How's he, you know, you've got to have a strong backbone and a sense of conviction to stand up to that. And does he have that? Well, he's got to, again, he's got to prove that. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what the left thinks. He will, you know, he'll implode, frankly. But it does matter what the left thinks, and this is just a really important point. Look, the only reason he's got a shot at becoming, you know, he became the favourite to become Labour leader, is because of the Green Party surge. And, you know, especially on the policy platform he's talking about. Because Labour is losing most of its support to the Greens rather than to Reform. So, you know, the left is a political constituency that can't be ignored. It has to be listened to. Can't just ignore it. You can't go, well, they'll vote for me anyway. Well, they won't, actually. You can't just bully people into doing that.
I heard noise. I heard sounds.
Look, the stakes are high. I understand we face the prospect of a right-wing authoritarianism. I do think in this by-election, I don't, you know, people screaming the Greens have to stand against democracy, and, you know, that's not how it works. You've got to win over people. And not all Green voters will vote Labour anyway. Not all Green voters are former.
I am MadCat79 Scotty, a Scottish disabled Marxist streamer and eco-socialist. We're watching Owen Jones saying, can we trust Andy Burnham? I say no. Please remember, he is a playwright. He was in Blair and Gordon Brown's cabinet.
Labour voters. It's all very entitled. But, you know, that said, you know, if you end up with a situation where Burnham narrowly loses and the Green vote is bigger than the majority of Reform, obviously that would not be good for the Greens, let's be honest. So I guess it's, you know, the Greens should actually really focus on winning the Greater Manchester mayoralty when he stands down. That would be the big prize. I abandon Labour. I want the Greens to do well, and I'm going to vote for the Greens in the next general election, come what may. I'm not voting for Emily Thornberry, she's my local MP. And, you know,
is that where you live, Owen?
An electoral system that allows the people to vote according to their conscience, rather than having to constantly make, you know, less of evil type calculations. And obviously, if he's actually committed to that, then that is the way to get there. But again, I think I've been fair. Here. I wasn't trying to either way say, you know, ooh, yeah, screw him or woo. I think I'm just trying to do my job as a journalist, actually. Just try and go through the issues and get to the
Owen is an actual journalist. He's part of the NUJ, which is National Union of Journalists.
And allow us all to come to our own conclusions.
He's a columnist for The Guardian.
Do leave your comments. Press like, subscribe. Help us take on. I think I've gone through why it's such a bad media, because I do a lot. But come on, like, ask him some proper questions. You know, because I don't know the answers.
They won't, Owen.
I haven't
you know that.
To ask him, and the other journalists who've spoken to him haven't got him to make clear what he means. So yeah, anyway, patreon.com/Jones84. You can order my book, The Fall of the West. You can pre-order that now. Very excited to talk about that more, as obviously it gets closer to publication date. But yeah, share the video. I'll speak to you in a bit.
Thank you, Owen. Kevin. Videos. This one.
So, chat. Andrew Murray Burnham, that's his actual name. His middle name is actually Murray. What a strange little world we live in. Anyway, Andy Burnham is now officially the Labour Party's candidate for the Makerfield by-election. He ran basically unopposed because, obviously, like, who was going to go up against him? What would be the point? And he was green-lighted by the Labour Party National Executive Committee, and ergo swans into that position. And that's understandable. I don't think anyone really has a problem with that. And of course, the other main contender for that particular political seat in Parliament, the Reform Party, have also learned their lesson from the Gorton and Denton by-election as well. Because the Labour Party, of course, made the mistake of not letting the only person who might have run and won that seat, Andy Burnham, from standing, and they lost, really embarrassingly. And the Reform Party brought in some fucking posho academic prick who lives in Hertfordshire called Matt Badloss. And he lost embarrassingly. And they've both learned their lesson. The Labour Party are allowing Burnham to stand, and the Reform Party have not just to me when I read that this guy was a builder, I thought, are they actually taking the piss? Are they just literally going, find us Hannah Spencer but very right wing? Right, that was what my mind went to. But then I found out he was actually the candidate at the general election in that seat as well for Reform. So, like, they've learned their lesson. They've got a local person who's like a vaguely normal guy, a plumber. Sorry, not builder. Yeah, who's a plumber, and he's like, has roots in the community. He's fought there before in the general election 2 years ago. So, like, he has, a certain name recognition and a history of campaigning and all of that sort of thing. So they've definitely got a better chance on that front as well. So that's of note going forward. The date, of course, of the election has been set for the 18th of next month. So a month minus 1 day until that by-election takes place. So we'll wait and see as to what happens going forward with that. Now, and of course I'll keep you updated as it goes along, and I'm sure there'll be many twists and turns and bumps along the road. Now, people may be shocked at this. I'm going to make a revelation here. I was wrong. Yep. Just let that sink in for a second. I, Kevin Logan, got a thing wrong, unfortunately. It doesn't happen very often. But I was incorrect in my analysis. You may remember when I was on with Curtis on Normal Island on the Turn Left channel. Everyone go and follow the Turn Left channel, by the way. If I do put this up on YouTube, I'll put a link in the bio. Yes.
He does. Yeah.
I was wrong about a thing. I said that the Green Party should stand aside for Andy Burnham in order to ensure that a more progressive person enters the fray and potentially becomes Prime Minister. And secondly, we might be able to get concessions out of him. And thirdly, it stops reform. Or potentially helps to stop reform, which might win us a certain amount of good boy points with normoids. And I was wrong about that. Completely fucking wrong. It did not take 72 hours for this Blairite fucker to show his true colours and to eviscerate all of the small amount of hope, or at least good faith, that I had in him. Some semblance that maybe something slightly better was to come. So, I talked about on, was it Sunday, how Andy Burnham had already ruled out doing proportional representation in the next Parliament. He said that it would have to be in a manifesto and then voted on at a general election. So it's not going to happen, which means Reform are going to be the largest party. It just matters as to whether they're a majority or have to form a minority or there's some other coalition or whatever, right? But they're going to be the largest party if there's no proportional representation. That's just, without some fucking miracle taking place, that's just going to happen. It's sort of inevitable. You can see it coming down the track at us, and it's a fucking scary prospect. But there we go. Yes. So.
Kieran Kinsella. I don't want to seem smug, but I've said from the start to say not to trust the man who pioneered the Labour privatisation surge. Path of flow publicly controlled. Well, fuck him then. Thank you, 8DX man. Yeah.
I was incorrect about hoping that he would do that. That was one of the concessions I was hoping we'd be able to get from him. But and ultimately it just leads you to think, like, what fucking good is he then? Like, what purpose is he really serving here? How is he actually going to stop reform? And some people pointed to, you know, his supposed allegiance to the quote-unquote soft left of the Labour Party, how he wants to bring things into public ownership, or at least, does he want to bring things into public ownership? Because he's hemmed and hawed about that a little bit. He's been a bit both sides of his...
yes, Dolly, there is no soft left.
And then in an interview, he shut down basically any concept of this ever happening, I think, with this particular snippet of an interview.
The ideas that you're talking about, already, you look at the financial markets on Friday, are pretty spooked. What are you going to do when the markets turn around and say, whoa, 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 we don't like any of this, and we have a situation we had with Liz Truss, where the economy starts to falter?
Correct.
Number one, I have never said you can just ignore the bond markets. Number two...
Well, didn't you say we shouldn't be in hock to the bond markets?
I said that politicians have placed Britain in hock because of the way in which we lost control of our finances and public spending when we, if you like, handed away control of energy, water, housing. That has left Britain in a weak position when it comes to public spending. You can't, how can you control public spending if you're chasing rents in the private rented sector through the benefits system? How can that be done? So, you know, I've quite clear, let me say this really clearly, I support the fiscal rules. There needs to be a plan to get debt down.
There you go. That's it. That kills any chance then of anything substantive happening. This is the person who's talked a good game in the past about ending neoliberalism, about how person who's talked a good game in...
Oh, Kieran Kinsella again. The Labour Party we once knew is dead. Correct. It has been dead since Blair. Correct. Jezza tried to revive it and the Uni Party squashed him. Correct. We need the Greens to act like they're a major party. Correct. Very correct. Well said, Kieran Kinsella.
The past about ending neoliberalism, about how the era of privatisation was one of the biggest mistakes in the country, how he understands the scope of the problem, he understands the chasm of anger out there, and how he wants to fix the social contract. And yet, he is just there committed to the very fiscal rules which have hamstrung this government into behaving exactly as they have, as a continuation, a continuity, Cameronite, fucking Osborneite, neoliberal shithouse. And this is the guy that's going to... How the fuck is he going to nationalise anything with the fiscal rules? You can't. It's literally impossible unless he doubles taxes on everyone, which isn't going to fucking happen. So it's nothing then. But what you are doing is running to achieve nothing. You are of no use to anyone, you Blairite fuck. So you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. Run against the cunt. Run against the cunt and take as many votes off him as you fucking can. Because what good is he anyway? And if the Reform Party get in, well, you know what? Maybe the Labour Party should learn their fucking lesson and not run absolute wankers as their candidates all the time. Maybe get anyone that the public actually wants to vote for. Fuck it. Because he's not going to do anything worthwhile anyway. So what good is he? If he's just going to go in there and be Wes Streeting anyway, fuck it, let Wes Streeting do it. At least we don't have to go through the fucking rigmarole of having another election after it. Because that's the thing. the wanker in number 10 right now, who should have been gone 6 months ago, is still going to be there in at least a month's time, and then this fucking prick is going to get down to London and fucking get his feet under the table for the next
month. Matter of monetary policy in the bank.
And then there's going to be a leadership election, so it's going to be fucking Christmas by the time we get rid of the prick. To be replaced with what? The same fucking fiscal rules that have meant that he's a fucking wanker that everyone hates. Why are you committing to that? Oh my God, fuck him. Make him lose. Make him lose. Because to me, it doesn't matter whether we admit defeat to reform and plan for the contingency now or in fucking 3 years. Because all that this person is going to do is ensure that Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister in 2-3 years' time. So whether there's another fucking wanker sat next to him, he'll probably get kicked out of the party for fucking domestic abuse or racism or something at some point anyway. So he probably won't fucking see out the Parliament as a Reform MP. He'll probably join fucking old fucking Southampton chairman cunt sat behind him. And they'll have 2 fuckers in the Restore party until the next election, and they'll both fucking lose, obviously. So it doesn't matter to me whether he's there or fucking not. Frankly, it's not going to make much difference to the electoral mathematics in the House of Commons for this Parliament. And the people of that area clearly don't have a problem with the Reform Party because they won all 8 fucking wards in the constituency at the local elections. So if democracy's going to mean anything, then we can't say, oh, well, we need to stop the Reform Party. Well, the people of that area don't fucking want to stop the Reform Party. They just fucking voted for them. So you know what? Andy Burnham can fucking do one. I had a certain amount of good faith a week ago with this man. And he's burned it to the fucking ground instantly. And that's the thing. That's the thing. I expected him to at least
good point, Omaha.
Run as the Progressive until at least he gets into office and then lets me down. Because he's a Blair, right? Of course he's going to fucking let you down. Maybe he'll do some good things, though. He literally can't be worse than the current guy, right? And he didn't even start the fucking candidacy. He only got fucking put into the candidacy today. And this was recorded yesterday. So he wasn't even technically the candidate for the by-election. And he was already saying things that eviscerate any possibility of actual change. So fuck him. It's not splitting the vote, because he's not a left-winger. The Green Party should run as the actual left-wing option in Makerfield, because other than them, there isn't one.
Thank you, Kev. Glorious anger. You'll love to see it. I kept on saying, please remember everyone, fucking Blairite. God, this country is so fucking shit. I don't know what to do next. Oh God, First Ministers.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Before we move to leaders' questions, would those backbench members who wish to ask a question please remember to press your button when Alex Cole-Hamilton rises to speak. And please don't start with to ask the First Minister. First Minister or some other beginning is fine. And backbenchers will have one question to let as many members in, so there will be no supplementaries for backbenchers. However, we move first to leaders' questions. I call Anna Sarwar.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This week, Peter Murrow, the former CEO of the SNP, pled guilty to embezzling over £400,000 of supporters' hard-earned cash. He will have to answer for his crimes, and that will be a matter of the courts. But questions remain about the deeper culture that allowed him to commit and think he could get away with his crimes. A culture that's been a hallmark of not just how the SNP run their party, but also how they govern the country. A culture of secrecy and cover-up, where the public are not told the truth, dissenters are vilified and careers destroyed, where protecting the party and the people at the top is more important than the country. A sick and twisted belief that the cause is bigger than anything. So will John Swinney apologise to all those that have been the victims of this dangerous culture?
First Minister.
Sir, as I've said in answer to the urgent question that I responded to on Tuesday and in my public remarks on Monday, that I am appalled at the conduct of Peter Murrell. And as the police statement said on Monday, this was a lengthy and extremely complex case due to the scale of criminality over a 12-year period and the lengths Peter Murrell went to try and cover his tracks. So there is a terrible example here of behaviour and a breach of trust in public office, which I unreservedly condemn, and I have made that abundantly clear. And the members of my party who have lost out as a consequence of seeing their donations and contributions used for the purposes for which they are intended, and I'm one of those people because I'm a contributor to the SNP, as are all my colleagues, are people who have lived with the consequences of this totally unacceptable actions. Now, in relation to these issues have been addressed by a lengthy police investigation, and Peter Murrell is now facing the consequences of those actions. As for the remainder of Mr Sarwar's comments, can I simply say this? Mr Sarwar peddled all this for the last 5 years, unreservedly, aided by his deputy sitting beside him. And the people of Scotland made their verdict on the 7th of May, and they returned it. And they returned 58 SNP MSPs to this Parliament, and the Labour Party were reduced in their number. I think Mr Sarwar should change his script, because his script is not working.
Presiding Officer, that arrogant disposition from John Swinney is what's destroyed so many people's lives in his own political party. Because John Swinney has been at the heart of the SNP for 30 years. This is a culture he helped build, enable and defend. So I say to the SNP benches, many of your colleagues and supporters were victims of this culture. And many you now sit with were part of it or benefited from that culture. So yes, Peter Murrell is responsible for his crimes. But secrecy and cover-up go far beyond one individual or one case. At its heart is an SNP culture where secrecy became normal, dissent dangerous, and people learnt that speaking out carried a heavy price, all while those at the top of the SNP machine operated without scrutiny. Yesterday we called for a parliamentary inquiry, as this is now a matter of public trust and integrity in office. John Swinney now says he believes in honesty and transparency. So prove it. Will he back a parliamentary inquiry?
First Minister.
No, I won't back a parliamentary inquiry on this issue. And the reason why I won't back a parliamentary inquiry is that we've just had a police investigation which has gone on for 5 years. And that police investigation has identified criminality as the source of this particular issue, and that has now been remedied in the courts. So I don't think there is anything a parliamentary inquiry can add to a 5-year forensic police investigation that has resulted in the successful prosecution of an individual and his guilty plea. So what I would rather do is concentrate on the priorities of the people of Scotland, as I always do, whether that's reducing waiting times in our hospitals, or providing the support to first-time buyers, or making sure we expand early learning and childcare. That's what I'm going to do, because I'm a First Minister on Scotland's side.
Presiding Officer, a parliamentary inquiry is not to look into the criminality. That's, of course, for the police. This inquiry is to look at the culture, the process of decision-making and lessons for the future. It's to answer the many questions that the public have. That requires light and transparency, not the usual John Swinney and SNP playbook to shut down or deflect, because we've seen the dangerous outcomes of this culture. Victims who reported the abuse by Patrick Grady threatened with legal and disciplinary action. SNP officials bullied and forced out by a First Minister for trying to reveal Murrell's crimes. Female MSPs bugged by SNP staff and then ignored by party leaders. 7 North Lanarkshire councillors forced out of the party for raising concerns about paedophile Jordan Linden. A culture that puts victims last as if they're a threat to the cause. So he has a choice. Will he back a parliamentary inquiry, or will he double down on protecting a culture that he helped build, that enabled a man he appointed to embezzle more than £400,000?
First Minister.
That was an astonishing attempt at victim blaming by Anas Sawa, and he should be ashamed of himself in what he said. There is one person and one person alone who is responsible for the embezzlement of my party's funds, and that's Peter Murrell. And when I became leader of the SNP, I promised to my party that the party would have open dialogue and debate and scrutiny within our party, and that is precisely what I have delivered to the SNP. Just one of the many promises I gave to the SNP and to the people of Scotland. I also promised that I would unite my party, and I succeeded in uniting my party, which is why there's 58 of us over here and there's 17 of them over there. And my last word to Mr Sawar on this subject is I would gently say to him, people in glass houses should not throw stones, because he knows that the Labour Party is up to its neck in difficulty, whether it's about live criminal cases that involve former members of this Parliament, or whether it's Peter Mandelson and his influence over the Labour government. Anas Sawa hasn't got a leg to stand on in taking me to task on these issues.
Good point. Good point.
Malcolm Offord.
Here we go.
Today we are importing 70% of our gas from Norwegian gas fields.
Oh, broken record.
Over the fence from our own that we're shutting down. Even the Norwegian Energy Minister thinks that is daft. Will the First Minister now state categorically that the Scottish Government will support the licensing of our own North Sea gas?
Reserved issue. You don't have the power to do fucking anything. We can talk out about it if we want in Parliament, and quite a lot of my Green comrades do that. It's a reserved issue, Malcolm. You fucking know that. I want it in Scottish hands. I really fucking do. Do you think this Labour government's going to fucking do that? He keeps on banging on about it. And even if they do grant the licences, it's going to take 10 plus years to get it up and running, and it's going to cost billions. I don't want them to tap Jack or fucking Rosebank at all. Will I be heard? No, obviously not. Fucking hell. Broken fucking record offered, you really are. And it's the wrong type of oil in fucking Rosebank anyway. It doesn't get used for energy. It gets used to make stuff. Like, we've got the gas, but we don't need to be tapping Jackdaw either. On and offshore wind, tidal, we're at capacity with hydroelectric. Do more on and offshore. Like offshore wind. We produce 115% of our electricity and is renewably, and we get charged to put it on the grid.
First Minister.
So the Scottish Government's position is that if new developments are to be taken forward, they have to pass a climate compatibility assessment to ensure that the extraction of those resources is compatible with our journey to net zero. And also in that judgment, there has to be consideration given to the issues around security of energy supply. Now, the first part of my answer in relation to climate compatibility assessments is essentially a requirement to be compatible with the most recent Finch judgment on consenting of oil and gas licences. The second part of my answer about security of supply is to take into account the much more volatile circumstances that we now face as a consequence of what has happened in the Middle East in recent weeks and months. So that is the position of the Scottish Government, and obviously the decision-making on this question is a matter for the United Kingdom Government to take that decision as to whether or not those tests can be satisfied as a consequence of any new licences that are issued.
Malcolm Offord.
So I have to say that that is a pretty mealy-mouthed response from the First Minister, because all that means is that we'll end up being tied up in court action trying to work out whether these tests are made.
It's not in our fucking control, Offord.
A month have been lost in the North Sea. So can the First Minister actually give unequivocal support, for example, for licensing Jackdaw and Rosebank and new drilling licences, and actually step forward on the fact that the licensing and planning is in control of the Scottish Government, and the Scottish Government needs to stand forward and make this happen for the people of the North East?
First Minister.
I understand the seriousness of the point that Mr Offord puts to me, but it's not me that's deferring to court actions. It's me living within the realities of living within the rule of law, which, as I've set out to Parliament, matters very much to me in how I conduct myself publicly. So the court judgment in the Finch judgment requires that climate compatibility assessment to be undertaken. So it's not something that we can wish away. It's not something that is mealy-mouthed. It's a reflection of the legal reality around about us. But the point I make to Mr Offord is that I do recognise that circumstances and dynamics have changed because of the situation in the Middle East. And of course, one of the worries that we have about supply is about jet fuel. And of course, jet fuel was manufactured at Grangemouth, which the Labour government, despite Anna Sarwar telling me in an election debate in 2024 would be saved by a Labour government, was closed by a Labour government.
Absolutely.
So I think we've got very careful judgments to make on this question, but the assurance I give Parliament today, and crucially that I give to oil and gas workers in the North East of Scotland, is that the Scottish Government is going to act with all intervention we can to make sure we secure the future of those individuals affected by the downturn in oil and gas.
Malcolm Offord.
Thank you. During the election, the First Minister promised that his first debate in this chamber would be on the Constitution, and followed with a request for Section 30 notice, and he did that. During the election, the Labour government promised that they would reject any application for such a Section 30 notice, and they have done that. And during the election, the First Minister promised that if his Section 30 notice application was rejected, he had a cunning plan to get a referendum. The debate was on Tuesday. It was rejected on Wednesday. Why is there a child in the Parliament? This is Thursday. Is this now the time for the First Minister to reveal his cunning plan, or has Peter Murrell stolen that as well?
First Minister.
Let me just say that on the point of substance that Malcolm Offord puts to me is an important one, because it gets to the heart of our democratic politics. I'm not going to just kowtow to 10 Downing Street. The people of Scotland have decided this Parliament's got an independence majority, and I'm going to use that independence majority to deliver independence for our country.
Gillian Mackay.
The Scottish Greens were the only party at this election to say that we need to use our full taxation powers to raise more money, particularly from the wealth of the super-rich. Today, the Tax Justice Scotland Coalition has written to the First Minister, calling for a post-election reality check on Scotland's public finances. In their words, if we want a fairer and greener country, we need to invest in it, and you can't promise a better Scotland and avoid paying for it. We know public sector reform is badly needed, but trade unions in particular are rightly concerned that reform is usually a euphemism for slashing budgets and cutting jobs. Does the First Minister agree with the Scottish Greens and Tax Justice Scotland that we should explore all options for taxing wealth before cutting public sector jobs?
First Minister.
As Gillian Mackay will know from her experience in the last parliamentary session, any budget proposition is a combination of tax and spending decisions. And of course the Government considers in all of those requirements the opportunities to raise tax and the consequences of raising tax and the opportunities to undertake public expenditure and the impact that that public expenditure can have. I think as we approach this discussion, obviously we're going to have very open discussions. The Deputy First Minister will lead those on behalf of the Government. But Ivan McKee will also be engaged in discussions about how we secure greater impact from the way in which we undertake public expenditure. And whilst I totally respect and understand trade union concern, we've also got to be open to new ways of delivering public services. I've seen fantastic work being delivered, which is cost less, but deliver better outcomes for individuals. And that's at the heart of the work that Ivan McKee is bringing forward, making sure that we improve public services whilst delivering financial sustainability to the public person. Of course, without a majority in this Parliament, the Government's going to have to work with others to come to common positions, and I look forward to taking those discussions forward with many colleagues across the political spectrum.
Gillian Mackay.
I appreciate that response from the First Minister, and I will come on in a second to an idea that we have on how we deliver more from the public sector. And I'm sure the new Cabinet Secretary for Public Sector Reform will have plenty of difficult decisions to make. But as the First Minister reflected, it's crucial that it's not just looking for cuts dressed up as efficiencies, but actually how we continue to build on the work that the public sector is doing, driving up productivity and well-being so that workers feel valued and are able to do their jobs well. Last session, the Scottish Greens secured a pioneering trial of a 4-day working week in the public sector, which resulted in a 25% drop in mental health sick days and no loss of service delivery or productivity. Whilst our finances remain stretched, rolling out a 4-day week would help transform public sector work at no extra cost to the public purse. So will the First Minister commit to expanding the 4-day week in the public sector?
First Minister.
I'm certainly very happy to consider these issues. It's obviously a bit early in the parliamentary session for me to be giving commitments quite as firm as Gillian Mackay is inviting from me today. But I do think there is a deadly serious point at the heart of our question, which is the environment in which public servants are working really matters. And if that environment is essentially burdened by excessive bureaucracy or by slowness in decision-making, then that can obviously have a negative effect on individuals in carrying out their responsibilities. And these considerations are at the heart of what Ivan McKee is looking for, to make sure that we utilise to the maximum the effectiveness of public expenditure so that public servants are able to fulfil their roles, and also that we are able to deliver better outcomes for members of the public in Scotland.
Gillian Mackay.
If it's a wee bit early for giving cast-iron commitments, the First Minister might not enjoy my next question. The Scottish Greens have already shown we can work constructively and creatively to raise more money for public services. Income tax changes driven by Green MSPs over the last decade mean that our public services are now better off to the tune of £1.8 billion each year. But we can't fix Scotland's public finances without fixing how we fund our local councils. For too long, the claim that we need consensus to replace the council tax has been used as an excuse not to take action. If the First Minister actually wants to scrap the council tax to fund public services, the Scottish Greens will work with him. That would be a parliamentary majority for change. So will the First Minister work with us to scrap the council tax in this Parliament?
Well,
First Minister.
As I told Parliament on Tuesday, I want this to be a bold Parliament. So there's got to be a reform in this Parliament. We can't, we simply can't go on as we're going on just now. There are legitimate issues about the council tax and its fairness, and these are issues with which I have a great deal of sympathy. The Deputy First Minister is meeting with local authority leaders later on today to start the dialogue and the constructive dialogue I want to see in place. And the Government will be, of course, willing to engage with the Scottish Green Party on all issues, including reform and potential abolition of the council tax. But we have to put in place reliable means that will support the public finances and the delivery of public services, and that will be the key consideration that is brought to those discussions by the Scottish Government.
Russell Finlay.
Thank you, President Officer. The Peter Murrell scandal isn't just about the SNP's toxic internal culture. This goes to the heart of government and Scotland's justice system. John Swinney and Nicola Sturgeon didn't stop Peter Murrell, they enabled him. Sturgeon warned SNP members to stop asking difficult questions, and John Swinney assured everyone that the SNP's finances were sound. Their shield of protection gave Murrell a licence to
Scottish Conservative and Unionist Party leader Russell Finlay. So yes, right wing. SNP, Labour, Reform, Greens, Tories ended 5th in Holyrood elections recently. The 5th party. With that shape head, it was a guess. Well done, good guess. Yes, this is a Tory. Your party is irrelevant here, Russell. They were the official opposition in the last Parliament. There was 31 of them. I think there's 10 now. They got semi-destroyed up here because we don't vote, the vast majority of Scots don't vote right-wing. So I don't know why Labour's second. Because they're ostensibly, Gammon looking is Reform correct, that's offered by the way. And I don't know who the child was we could see on screen, but the other one sitting to, as I'm looking on his left, it's not on the left, is Thomas Kerr, a former Reform councillor here in Glasgow. So there's going to have to be a by-election for that council ward. I'd want a Green to take it, but I'd be fine with an SNP. It's an SNP run council here in Glasgow, by the way. So either I'd prefer it to be a Green councillor to join my other comrades who are councillors here in Glasgow. But yeah, right winger.
to steal. And people want to know why Nicola Sturgeon wasn't in the dock beside her husband. So will John Swinney back our call?
She got investigated, and there was they didn't need to do further investigation in her. Her now estranged husband has admitted guilt. He has pled guilty. The sentencing for Peter Murrell is next month.
For the Lord Advocate to publish all information relating to this case.
First Minister.
Mr Finlay is an experienced parliamentarian and also an experienced journalist who's looked at many issues of criminality. And over his career, and of course this was pointed out by the Crown Office to Mr Finlay yesterday, the Crown does not disclose the rationale for them taking decisions other than where they pursue prosecutions against individuals. And of course the Crown has undertaken a successful prosecution here, and I pay tribute to the Crown Office and Police Scotland. The Crown also made clear to Mr Finlay yesterday that the Lord Advocate had no involvement, nor did the Solicitor General, who are the law officers in this case, because they never have an involvement in cases involving political figures, because that is all undertaken by independent counsel and experienced Crown counsel within the Crown Office. So what that assurance that was given by the Crown to Mr Finlay yesterday is designed to do is to explain that the highest standards have been applied to a deep and forensic criminal investigation which resulted in the prosecution of one person and one person alone. And if Mr Finlay had a shred of decency about him, he would express his respect for the judicial system in Scotland, his respect for the justice system in Scotland, and leave the professional officers of our police service and our professional prosecutors to do their job, which is exactly what they've done.
Russell Finlay.
Usual desperate deflection from John Swinney. He's trying to shut down scrutiny, and we won't stand for it. John Swinney says that the SNP is the victim, although there are new reports that taxpayers' money was also stolen. Was it? So if the SNP are the victim,
party members' money was stolen.
Exercise their right in law to seek a review of the Crown Office's prosecution decision. And will John Swinney now follow the money which bought a camper van, Mont Blanc pens, a home library? Is he taking legal action to force Peter Murrell to pay compensation? Or has John Swinney asked the Crown Office to use proceeds of crime laws to recover luxury stolen goods from Peter Murrell and Nicola Sturgeon?
First Minister.
She's no case to answer to, Russell.
If there's anything desperate about all of this, it's the desperation of a man who has led the Conservative Party into oblivion, asking me questions about this issue today, because that is what Russell Finlay is doing today. Now, as a matter,
let the First Minister answer, please.
As a matter of fact, in court on Monday, the Advocate Depute made a verbal motion for confiscation in terms of Section 92 of the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002, and a decision on this matter will ultimately be for the court to make. And given that, as the presiding officer told us on Tuesday, there remain live proceedings until sentence, I am unable to say any more beyond that. The second point I will make is in relation to the suggestion that there was public money involved in all of this. The only issue that could apply there is in relation to a policy development grant from the Electoral Commission. But I want to reassure Parliament that in order to receive funding, a party needs to apply to the Electoral Commission outlining the work that will be done in the forthcoming year and submit an audited report to the Electoral Commission outlining what grant funding has been spent upon, and it's only on receipt of the audited report that the final payment of the grant is made by the Electoral Commission. So that confirms the point that I made to Parliament on Tuesday, that this is SNP supporters' money that has been embezzled and not public money. And the last thing I'll say to Russell Finlay is this. The Scottish National Party is a party that has been affected by the loss of the resources as a result of this case. But what the Scottish National Party can rely on now is the most effective arrangements in place to guarantee the resources that we use, which we use to maximum effect. And we used them to maximum effect on the 7th of May, when the SNP won 58 seats in this Parliament and the Conservatives were reduced to a hopeless rump of 12 of them over there. They may grin all they like, but those of us who, for the seventh time in a row in this Parliament, successfully got rid of the Conservatives, the people of Scotland can breathe a sigh of relief that they're over there, redundant as a consequence of the election.
Alex Cole-Hamilton.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Presiding Officer, during the Easter holidays, at least 8 ferries were out of action at the same time. Every Scottish island faced disruption. They are overdue serious compensation, and I hope the First Minister will finally extend that to the coastal communities affected too. Now, those businesses are looking towards the summer holidays, and they are wondering what they will mean for them. Because last week, technology of the 19th century came to the rescue of passengers of the 21st when the Waverley paddle steamer stepped in for a stricken CalMac vessel. John Swinney must have winced with embarrassment at that reality. So can I ask the First Minister, is Scotland's ferry fleet ready for the summer?
First Minister.
I was half expecting it to be about social care. It wasn't. It was about ferries. They're second most important issues they keep on banging on about.
Months, and when I went to the Western Isles during the election campaign, I made clear, and by the way, I went to the Western Isles by ferry, and I came back by ferry. I didn't just fly in for a day trip. I went and I listened to people about the ferries issues, and what I confirmed was that if the SNP government was re-elected, we would put in place financial assistance to deal with the damage which I acknowledge was undertaken to many communities as a consequence of the disruption during the Easter holidays. And I'm happy to confirm to Parliament today that such a fund will be made available by the Scottish Government.
Keep on banging on about it.
At the terms and the basis of that.
I get it, it's important.
Point about coastal communities, and we'll reflect on that.
It does get very repetitive.
In relation to is the ferry network equipped for the summer, when I looked at the service strength this morning before I came down to the Chamber, on most routes the ferry service is operating appropriately this morning, and that's been the case for a number of days. I look at this on a regular basis because I am keen to make sure that island communities are well served by the ferry network, and I will continue to do so, as will the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, who's engaging on all of these questions. So I do think the ferry network is going to be ready for the summer. It will have to be, because the First Minister is going to be using it to go on his summer holidays.
Alex Cole-Hamilton.
I'm grateful for that reply, but no wonder the people of the Western Isles sent the First Minister and his party packing. Lots of coastal communities and island communities are turning away from the SNP because of this. Remember, the New York Times told its readers that while our Scottish islands are beautiful, in their words, Presiding Officer, good luck getting on or off them. Scotland's islands are a great option for a summer getaway. They are beautiful, but only if we can get holiday makers over to their hotels, to their cafes and to their distilleries. Presiding Officer, the ferry fleet is more prone than ever before to breakdown and disruption. It is not resilient. Everyone who lives there knows that all too well. So has the First Minister picked up the phone to ferry operators and governments elsewhere in the UK and in Europe to find extra vessels to keep those routes operational and our island communities profitable?
First Minister.
Of course we've done that, because we've been using the MV Alfred on the Troon to Brodick route, with which the presiding officer may well be familiar. We've also purchased the Loch Frisa, which services the Oban to Craignewer route on the Isle of Mull. And of course, we have now in service the MV Isle of Isla, which is servicing the route to Isla. The Glensannox is servicing the route to Castleby at the present moment. We have another vessel coming from the Chemney Yard in the summer, another one in the autumn, another one in the spring. The Glen Rosa is to join service, so there's more vessels coming into the fleet. The SNP government has already put 9 new vessels into the fleet, and we've got 11 more coming into the fleet. So I assure Mr Cole-Hamilton that Calmac and Northlink ferries are always working to make sure that we have in place the connections. And I think there's an important message that our islands are open for business. When I was in the Western Isles in the election campaign, I heard frustration from local businesses, yes, about the ferry network, but also about some of the amplification of these issues, which indicated it was ever more difficult for people to get to the islands, which is damaging to the island communities. Yeah. And the last thing, while I'm on my feet, and I really can't resist the temptation of this, is that Mr Cole-Hamilton said that island communities were turning their backs on the SNP. And obviously, I grieve the loss of my dear friend, Dr Alistair Allen, in the Western Isles, an absolutely outstanding parliamentarian. And I very much regret the fact that we were unable to hold on to Keith, Sutherland and Ross and Skye, Lochaber and Bangor.
Oh yeah, same here.
But after 75 years of Liberal representation, the people of Shetland did an absolutely wonderful thing, and they sent Hannah Mary Goodlad here for the SNP, and we're delighted to welcome her here in the Scottish Parliament.
Now, we now move to backbench questions. Leaders' questions have taken some 30 minutes, so I think now folk will appreciate why I've got a backbenchers question session on Tuesday. What I'll say to members now is that please ensure you've pressed your buttons, because we already have a host of people who are keen to speak, but there are those who sent in very interesting questions I'm quite keen to take, but some of you have not pressed your buttons. So without further ado, I call Jackie Dunbar.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This week there was an announcement that the energy cap was going to increase by 13%, which is going to have an estimated bill rise of £221. So can I ask what assessment has been made on the impact that this will have on poverty and child poverty in Scotland?
First Minister.
So obviously the news about the energy price cap is a very serious blow to families around the country, because people are already wrestling with the cost of living challenges. We all heard that during the election campaign. And of course the 13% increase in the energy price cap just makes that situation ever more challenging for individuals and families around the country. The Scottish Government will take all the action we can take through some of the measures I set out during the election around, for example, the affordability of travel, the affordability of the food shop. But of course what we need is the action from the United Kingdom Government, who promised to reduce fuel bills, energy bills by £300, but energy bills are going to be higher than when the Labour Government came to office. Just another example of the failure of the Labour Government at Westminster. And it's now a strong and compelling argument for what we'll debate and discuss this afternoon, for the importance of making sure that the energy generating potential of Scotland is in Scotland's hands, so that people can benefit from the strength of Scottish energy.
Maggie Chapman.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The First Minister will remember the publication of the Gillies report last year that contained recommendations about university governance and financial management, including on issues of transparency and staff engagement. Today, Aberdeen University Court discusses restructuring, job cuts, increasing staff workload and more. And yet staff haven't been properly engaged.
Hi, Maggie.
Unions haven't received the information required about fair work and other questions, and Senate has not been properly consulted. Can I ask the First Minister what his view is of how the Gillies recommendations are being understood and implemented by institutions, how public money is being used in ways that will have significant negative impacts on staff and students in Aberdeen and elsewhere, and will he agree to meet with the campus unions as soon as possible?
First Minister.
So the issues that Maggie Chapman raises are very important, because, as the Gillies report found, there were significant issues. It looked into the issues at the University of Dundee, which were of an exceptional character. But the process that is being undertaken by the University of Aberdeen to ensure that it is able to sustain its activities has to be undertaken in line with the principles that the Government expects and are contained within the Gillies report. Of course, the University of Aberdeen operates as an arm's-length independent institution, so it is responsible for its own governance. But ministers would expect the University of Aberdeen and any university to pay due account to the requirements that were the issues that were set out in the Gillies review, and also the terms of the availability of funding through the Scottish Funding Council. So I would simply encourage the University of Aberdeen to engage constructively with all interested parties to ensure that that is the case. In relation to a meeting with the trade unions, I know that the Minister for Tertiary Education, Ben McPherson, would be very happy to meet with the trade unions, and we will make arrangements for that to take place.
Laura Mitchell.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This week, the CBI revealed that 105,000 renewable jobs are contributing over £10 billion to the Scottish economy. Reform would end that industry tomorrow, and the Tories inflicted the tax on Scotland's energy that is costing 1,000 jobs per month. The First Minister knows Scotland needs oil and gas supply chains and skills to deliver these renewable jobs. So can I ask the First Minister what action his government is taking to support our offshore industry and the renewables industry to drive forward Scotland's economy?
First Minister.
May I thank Laura Mitchell for her question and welcome her to her place in Parliament as the member for Murray, and look forward to her contribution. The issues that she raises, of course, in relation to renewable energy and oil and gas are central to the economic interests of her constituency, and I know that she will champion them effectively in this Parliament. In relation to the CBI report, I welcome very much the CBI report, and I had the opportunity to reflect at the CBI's annual Scottish lunch last Friday with the Cabinet Secretary for the Economy on the importance of a collaboration between government, business, our renewable energy and oil and gas companies, our universities and other players within our economy, our local authorities, and I had the opportunity to reinforce this message when I opened the new renewable energy engineering centre for Hitachi UK yesterday in the city of Glasgow, on the importance of creating a sense of common purpose within our economy to make sure that we are all taking measures that will support the oil and gas sector, support renewables, and make sure that we accelerate the transition to net zero. Now, what we need to see is practical measures taken to strengthen the financial viability of oil and gas activity, which comes through the removal of the Energy Profits Levy, which is long overdue, and the acceleration of the steps to consenting around the grid, which is necessary on renewable energy developments, and that will help to realise the ambitions of that Laura Mitchell has set out today. And I give her the assurance that the Scottish Government will argue for all of these provisions.
Backbenchers have been very well behaved with short, sharp questions. I would like shorter and sharper responses to allow more to come in. Claire Baker.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Learning Review into the case of Family C in Glasgow has been published in recent days. Commonly known as the Beastie House, this report evidences the multitude of institutional failures that resulted in children enduring a decade of degrading, violent and sexual abuse at the hand of adults who were supposed to be caring for them. The heinous crimes committed are truly awful and heartbreaking. That this was able to happen in modern Scotland, where we have a multitude of children's policies and strategies that are supposed to protect children and recognise their rights, is a disgrace. I recognise that the First Minister has given an apology to a scrum of journalists.
Oh, God. I can hear the foxes again. Fun.
But that is not equivalent to giving a statement to Parliament. And can I ask the First Minister what he has to say to victims and to Parliament about these serious failings?
I'm grateful to Claire Baker for raising this important issue, and I agree with her conclusions and her assessment of this report. It is absolutely terrible reading, what has been disclosed. I want to pay tribute at the outset to the children who, from my reading of the report, have demonstrated extraordinary strength and tenacity in being able to convey the suffering that they have experienced. And I expressed an unreserved apology to each of those children involved. It is clear from my reading of the report that there were serious institutional failures in understanding and connecting all of the information that was available. And I find it difficult to comprehend how that could be the case, because the information was so obvious and so compelling. But it demonstrates what has been an issue which has occurred in a number of cases on different occasions, of the failure of institutions to make connections between information that comes together to therefore necessitate action and intervention. And that is just one of the key points of learning that must come out of this report. The Cabinet Secretary for Education will be meeting with the City of Glasgow Council to consider this issue, and it was discussed at Cabinet on Tuesday. And I want to make sure that the lessons identified in this report are the source of challenge to all child protection committees in the country, because I agree fundamentally with the point that Claire Baker makes, that it is simply beyond comprehension that such experiences could take place.
I'll be reading out after
21st century Scotland with the
my
policy
leg is
framework that
absolutely
we have
killing
in
me
place.
now.
We have to honestly face up to the institutional failure that is involved, and I give her the commitment that the Government will do so.
Liam Kerr.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. After releasing more than 1,400 prisoners early, cutting the automatic early release point to less than a third of the sentence, bringing in a presumption against short sentences and all but stopping under 25s from going to prison, Scotland's prison population is nevertheless still at record levels. So does the First Minister accept that the knee-jerk, ham-fisted early release has failed? And can he confirm that his government will not bring forward yet another early release scheme to cover up its failure to tackle Scotland's prison capacity crisis?
First Minister.
The issues that Liam Kerr raises are serious issues, because the prison population is at a very, very high level, and the level of incarceration is very high at the present moment. Part of that is because of the success of the criminal justice authorities in prosecuting individuals for historic crime and the length of sentences that have been applied. It gives rise to significant issues about prison capacity, and that issue is being addressed very directly. The Justice Secretary and I met to discuss this issue yesterday and will be the source of very focused work amongst partners to make sure that we take all the action that is necessary to ensure the prison population can be stabilised and our prisons can operate safely for all concerned.
Keith Brown.
The First Minister may be aware that 60 families so far in my constituency have had to be evacuated at very short notice from their homes due to underground movement in the former mining community of Coles Norton. The distress and uncertainty caused to my constituents, including their children, cannot be overestimated. Can the First Minister assure me that the National Resilience Framework and his government generally will spare no effort in assisting my constituents and in ensuring that the Mining Remediation Agency and the relevant insurance companies fully and quickly discharge their responsibilities and provide serious support for my constituents as they experience the profound distress of being moved from their homes at short notice?
First Minister.
I'm very concerned about the issues that Mr Brown raises. I'm familiar with the points and I provide him with the assurance that the Government's Resilience Network is actively supporting Clackmannanshire Council on this question. The Mining Remediation Agency are actively engaged with the partnership in taking forward the support that is required. I acknowledge the distress and the inconvenience and the anxiety that this causes to Mr Brown's constituents, and I provide him with the assurance that the Government will do all that it can to support the residents concerned and Clackmannanshire Council. And if there are any specific areas in which Mr Brown would require assistance from the Government, he knows that the Government will respond very swiftly to any request that he makes of us.
Graham Simpson.
Thank you. When John Swinney was voted in as First Minister last week, he said, "All too often in parliaments, I've watched members celebrate when bold proposals are blocked, seemingly for political expediency rather than for any substantial concerns." And he offered to work across party lines because that's what people expect. The last Parliament rejected my proposals to introduce a recall system to this place. That was a missed opportunity. The First Minister backs recall in principle, so can I ask if he would agree to consider how we can best look at this again, either by me bringing my proposals back or forming a committee to look at it, or some other option?
First Minister.
As Mr Simpson indicates, I am in principle in support of a recall provision. I think it's necessary for there to be a recall provision in place. And I'm open to what is the mechanism by which that is undertaken. I think it's... I generally consider this to be a rather invidious issue for the Government to bring forward because it affects the status of members of Parliament. So
I'm going to read out
I think I would rather see this emerge through parliamentary discussions as opposed to at the initiative of a government bill, for example. But I am prepared, and it may be an issue, presiding officer, that the corporate body may wish to provide some advice about. But essentially, I give Mr Simpson the assurance that the Government would be supportive of developing such a proposition if we can agree what is the most appropriate mechanism for doing that. And I say that simply to respect the fact that I don't think the Government should be passing judgment about the role of members of Parliament. I don't think that's constitutionally appropriate. But if Parliament wished us to consider that, I'd be happy to do so.
And Karen Adam.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. First Minister, a few weeks ago you visited the Vinery in Banff with me and you saw the difference that it makes, offering a welcome place where people can build confidence, learn new skills, improve well-being and sometimes find a route into work. With our UK shared prosperity funding lost, it now faces closure in a matter of days, and that would be devastating for hundreds of local people and families. Can I ask the First Minister what steps his government can take to engage with the centre and help safeguard these services that it provides?
Minister. So Karen Adam is absolutely right. I had a lovely visit to the Vinery with her in Banff and I saw at first hand the tremendous positive impact it has on the lives of individuals, tackling social isolation and overcoming some of the challenges of mental well-being that individuals are wrestling with. I'd be very happy to explore with Ms Adam the steps the Government could take to try to intervene. The Cabinet Secretary for Social Justice would be able to engage on this question, and will explore what possibilities there are to safeguard the support that's available through the Vinery.
Thank you, and with apologies to all those members I was unable to take today, that concludes First Minister's questions. I suspend the meeting until 2:30.
There we go. I am sorry, YouTube comrades, because I don't have 1,000 yet, I can't read out or get monetised. But Twitch, my lovely Twitchers, my Twitch comrades, let's go and say hi to Shanna, shall we? Best part of 3 hours. I thought I've done quite well. Capricorn. Let's go and say hi to Shanna, shall we? Capricorn. Everyone go and follow Capricorn. Shanna is awesome. She is my mod. She is called Super Mod for very obvious reasons. We love Shanna over here. Oh, they're on to Lost already. Stay hydrated. Self-care is good care. Take your meds if you need to take any. Stay based. Free Palestine. And watch out for the heat. And it is still too fucking hot.
Assault on a federal officer. Murder in the first degree. Funny, you don't strike me as a murdering kind.
It's because I'm not.
Be sure to mention that to the feds when they get here.
Something you wanted?
Madcat79 Scotia just traded with 1 views.
Bye bye.